My daughter Amanda, F13, has cerebral palsy. She is able to walk independently, but cannot walk for long periods of time, and cannot walk on anything other than even ground without assistance. I.e. stairs have to have rails, can't walk on rocks/sand/etc. She has an IEP for this, that states what she can and cannot do in excursions, etc. It's relevant to note that Amanda catches the bus home, but can only catch a specific route, as the other route the school offers drops her off at a road about a mile away that has no footpath. I got a call at work at 11 AM today telling me that Amanda had spoken quite rudely to a substitute gym teacher who tried to make her climb the rock wall that her school has. Apparently Amanda did say, "I can't, I have cerebral palsy and I have an IEP," but when another child said, "Yeah, same here," the teacher didn't believe her and became insistent, standing over her, so Amanda told him to fuck off, and wouldn't repeat anything but fuck off, until she was sent to the office. It is in the handbook that this type of offense is a same day after school detention. But when the principal called me, I said absolutely not. I told them that they were welcome to do a week's worth of lunch detentions, or even schedule it, so that I can change my work schedule, but absolutely not this afternoon. My husband is away for work, I have to work until 6 PM and I need Amanda to be on her regular bus, because I have nobody who can drop her off home at 4:30 when detention finishes. They told me about the late bus and I reminded them why Amanda couldn't take that bus, and was told, well, sounds like a natural consequence to me. This isn't your average kid refusing to do something, being rude and deserving a long walk home as well as detention. This is a kid that could be seriously harmed if she was made to walk that far and on that road. The principal told me that I was making excuses and that Amanda needed to face consequences and I didn't technically need to give permission. They were making me aware. I agree that Amanda needs to face consequences for her language, which are that she's grounded for the weekend and has to serve any lunch detention the school gives her, and apologizing to the teacher for specifically her language, nothing else. But putting her in danger is not right, and that if they were insistent on this, I was insistent on taking my lunch break right now to drive over and pull her out for the rest of the day. Edit. The school called back and said she had 2 days of lunch detention, but my sister who lives interstate thinks I'm being one of those mums and told me I was in the wrong, hence posting. Eta. Edit to update. I have since ungrounded Amanda and apologized and told her that I acted irrationally out of stress and anger at the school in the situation. I also told her it's up to her regarding the apology. NTA. Holy shit, the pet teacher needs to face consequences for their behavior. I would not be talking to the principal about this, because said principal seems incompetent. I would be calling the school board and reporting everyone and their mother for this behavior. They tried to force your daughter to climb a rock wall because they didn't believe her when she said she has an IEP. That's insane. Imagine how many other kids they are pulling that **** on. That's terrible. Don't let this go. Call everyone above the principal who will listen and complain. I have a meeting scheduled for Monday. I don't work Mondays, to go over all this with the school and ask a whole heap of questions as to how this happened at all. NTA, but I'd take this higher up because I'm thinking that it's adequate punishment to make a disabled child walk home that distance when they physically can't is appalling. Contact the school boards and your local newspaper. Yep, as soon as the principal started in that tone I would have instantly said, sorry, this line's not great. Could you please send me an email? Put down everything you just said in writing in an email. That would be very helpful. NTA, yeah, the language wasn't great, but if she had tried a reasonable discussion and the teacher insisted on putting her in danger, good on her for knowing to stand up for herself. What did the school principal suggest she do differently in that situation? Honestly, I didn't even think to ask that in the phone call. Thanks for another thing to bring up. Amanda clearly wasn't being believed about her disabilities, so I wonder if he was expecting her to try and fail and be laughed at by her peers, or try and somehow succeed but wind up injuring herself or falling off the rock wall. Don't get me wrong, I do tell Amanda that she should try things, but I don't think a high school pet class being run by a sub who I don't even know is a pet teacher is the place to try rock climbing. A proper gym with a harness and trained people. Sure. NTA. The fact the pet teacher didn't believe her because some other smart aleck kid piped up would be more my concern. Knowing the history and knowing what happened, and yet the principal still defends the teacher. Sounds like the quality of teaching is declining because the principal is clearly substandard too. I'd be taking this further because if this is how the principal handles kids with disabilities, you'd hate to think how they may be letting this pet teacher potentially bully other kids. I've had to have a meeting with them, a different principal, last year because another substitute didn't get any memos about Amanda, GRR, and wouldn't let her use the toilet when she needed to. She tried to say it was in her IEP and some jerk said she's lying. It's not. She doesn't even have one. Amanda simply got up and walked out and then went straight to the office after she went to the toilet. I was apologized to and told that it wouldn't happen again. A couple years back I was given an after-school detention because I displayed a symptom of my disability. I stimmed at an inappropriate time, despite the fact the school knew I had autism. Fun fact, most people are going to get a tad distressed during a lockdown drill. That teacher was fired. It is unacceptable the amount of ableism and lack of information in schools. It's tough to grow up with, but the first time I had to balls to correct someone was when things actually started to change. Your daughter is amazing. She doesn't need attention. And you can tell that school to shove it up their ass. Because they were actively trying to force your child to sustain injury. And that doesn't sound like appropriate safeguarding. NTA. And give that girl some ice cream. So a teacher harassed your daughter contrary to medical advice, and the only way your child could stop the assault was to swear. Your child did not do anything wrong. The teacher needs to apologize and serve the detention. NTA. My main concern is why this teacher didn't know what all the kids' medical histories are. There must be something in the office stating, with a list of students' names, of who can't do what. And this is coming from a parent whose child is autistic and epileptic. All staff members knew his story at both schools he went to. You'd think so. At the junior campus of the school, subs knew everything, and if there were any questions, they'd just pop their head into the next classroom to ask. In this middle school campus, they're a Prep 12 private school, not the same thing at all. NTA. Additionally, I would say your daughter was NTA for her response to the sub. Yes, she could have chosen better language, but from your description it sounds like your daughter tried to stand her ground and assert that, medically, she couldn't do what's being asked of her, and the sub got their ego bruised when another kid decided to chime in. Imo, the only way it is by punishing her for standing up for herself. Clearly your daughter has a condition. If she can't walk on uneven surfaces, and the sub should have used better judgment in handling that situation. When they didn't, your daughter stood up for herself, which is difficult for any child to do in the face of authority. I love her initial response, and if she were my kid I'd applaud her additional responses, because she was on her own. She stood up for herself, recognized that no one else would advocate for her, and so she stood her ground. I wouldn't stifle that courage, because I doubt this will be the only time she needs it. My daughter has a disease in her left foot. It is controlled, and we have managed to get 85% of growth back in a particular bone through lots of casting and therapy. The treatment resulted in muscular atrophy, a couple of other conditions, orthotics for life, and a limp when she gets tired. The school were incredibly supportive and nurturing. That is until the pet teacher gave her a detention and punished her by making her run laps of the school fields. I had a distraught, exhausted child in immense pain who could not walk for days. Odadel loose off. I have no issue with detention, but don't hurt my child. Mama Tiger was released. NTA. Did the pet teacher keep his job after that? He basically made a handicapped child do a very painful form of punishment that left her immobile for days. I'm sorry that you and your daughter had to deal with that. I'd be blocking the detention and telling the principal that he needs to apologize to your daughter for not properly briefing the substitute on requirements. You're NTA here. Seriously. They were teaching physical education to a child with a disability that causes uncontrollable muscle weakness and SPASMS, and they weren't briefed, weren't listening. It should never have been on the child to defend herself. Not because you're stopping your kid from having after school detentions, but because you're punishing your kid for advocating for herself in the face of a bully. Having had a very similar situation with my own kid, the teacher took umbrage at his cancer. Ice cream is a more appropriate response. TBH, I wish my parents took my side. When I was a kid, they always sided with the teachers, or they didn't wanna rock the boat. NTA. So Amanda told him to fuck off, and wouldn't repeat anything but fuck off, until she was sent to the office. LMAO. Gym teacher, listen key. Amanda, F*** off. Gym teacher, excoo. Amanda, fuck off. Gym teacher, go to the. Amanda, fuck TF** off. I think this really shows why she wasn't in the wrong. Like, I know, usually older people get so emotional and shocked when they hear curse words, but she was defining a boundary that the teacher repeatedly ignored. Like, she established why it was an open and shut case, but they kept coming at her about it. Like, if they respected her boundary, she wouldn't have to repeat it. To add to that, she's also a kid who doesn't have completely mature language about establishing boundaries. Adults really need to take that into consideration. She was polite about it at first, but then she kept being attacked about it. Like, the only other option is to get defensive or shut down and take it. I know I did the second as a child, which led to emotional abuse by a few adults in my life. NTA. Maybe the IEP can also be modified to have her excused from pen. It seems that a lot of activities could come up that aren't safe for her, unless done at her own speed. I imagine that dribbling a ball and avoiding opponents would be very similar to negotiating an even terrain. That happens next year. Once she turns 14, she's allowed to join my gym so that she can start doing yoga, gentle cycle classes and some modified strength classes to help with her physio as well. Her normal pet teacher is great at modifying activities for her. For instance, instead of dribbling a ball, her and a peer would practice back and forth throwing the ball and shooting into the hoop. Amanda shouldn't even be punished in the first place. The sub tried to put your daughter in danger cause they refuse to believe that she has cerebral palsy. She could been seriously injured if she had actually attempted to climb the rock wall. I'm beyond proud of Amanda for advocating for herself. Lord knows I couldn't at her age. I don't know what kind of the staff at your daughter's school is smoking, but they are out of their minds if they think this oblast is acceptable. Give them hell opus. NTA. NTA. Don't punish her. Once my sister, parental guardian, got a call and they told her I would be suspended for telling a substitute teacher to go F*** yourself, you ignorant twat, and storming out of class. My sister asked them why I had said that, and they couldn't tell her because the sub didn't tell them, and they didn't ask me. All they said was it doesn't matter, that is not appropriate, etc. My sister came to the school and demanded a meeting between the sub, the head of year and headmaster, then asked me to explain why I did what I did. We were learning about focal abnormalities. We had started to discuss Down syndrome when the teacher said that if it were up to him, all people with disabilities, not the term he used, would be aborted to save them and their parents a horrendous life. My sister simply stared at the headmaster until he stammered, "This is an internal matter and we will solve it today." We left, and later my sister got a call to confirm the sub had been removed. I would face no disciplinary action, and that the school were incredibly sorry that this had happened. My sister stormed the gates because she knew I wouldn't react like that unless pushed very far. Unless this is a common thing for your daughter, I would suggest you have her back on this. NTA. Sounds unreasonable for the school, knowing her condition, to not be more open to doing detentions and school time after you explained the bus issue. The sub should have believed Amanda, especially since they don't know the kids. NTA. I was born with CP. It's not as severe as Amanda's, but still, some things are relatable. But I will say that the only person who needs to be disciplined is the teacher. He was standing over her and using his authority to make her do something she physically can't do. That's pretty messed up of him. Also, the person who called you saying sounds like a natural consequence to me is out of order. That's messed up, and you should complain to the school board or whoever about it, to be honest. I'm glad you ungrounded Amanda. She did nothing wrong. Edit. Typo. NTA. Schools are legally bound to follow IEPs etc. It's not an our move to enforce that. If it's already on file that they must send her home on that bus and no other, then they don't have the option to simply shrug and claim that not following the IEP is part of her punishment. I'm using my authority as her parent to override the school, and that is not an appropriate move. However, I must say this seems like a *very* unhealthy attitude. Unless I'm misunderstanding you. Actually, it isn't documented on her IEP that she must be on that specific bus, just that she buses, or I pick her up, so thank you for that. I will send an email to her SPED coordinator to ask what needs to be done to make that happen. I'm not sure what you mean about unhealthy attitude. I must be misunderstanding either you or I typed that sentence wrong. NTA. And honestly, all my congratulations to Amanda for standing up for herself. The pet teacher should know about the IEP. He would have hurt her by doing a dangerous exercise she can't do. She explained it. Believe it or not, he should have stopped the exercise and asked the admin. Instead he tried to force her. F*** is the only answer. Post has been up for an hour and I'm already ready for Monday's update. NTA. Withdrawing your daughter from the IEP doesn't sound like a natural consequence to me. Since the IEP remains in effect, they'll have to be creative in their selection of a different consequence. How fortunate you. And they hit on lunch detention, a consequence that didn't violate her IEP. I'm curious how the teacher that dismissed her IEP and physically intimidated her is being disciplined. I'd ask in exactly those words. NTA. Every school has at least one or two teachers who secretly resent IEPs, think you're just coddling your snowflake child, and who drag their feet endlessly when it comes to accommodations. IEP parents always have to deal with these authoritarian types. Sometimes that includes the principal. Good on you for baring your fangs. This is the way. I'm also sorry you have to deal with your sister's ableism. Hopefully she can learn and get better with time. NTA. And please report teacher and school. If in UK, they broke Equality Act 2010. Probate some similar anti-discrimination legislation they are breaking where you are if not UK. Similarly, in the US, this is a major ADA violation, the kind that gets a public school's administration removed, a charter school's charter revoked, and a private school, well, let's just say there are lawyers who would start salivating. As a teacher, your daughter actually has one protection and the principal is full of shit. It's required that the gym teacher leaves in the sub-planned students that need specific accommodations. So it's not the sub-swap, it is the teacher's fault for not leaving those accommodations behind, so that this didn't happen. Your daughter was traumatized and abused because of the teacher and her reaction was 100% normal. What you need to do is you need to contact that principal and ask them why they are breaking the law and punishing your daughter when she was being ostracized and targeted for her disability. This isn't a battle worth fighting for that substitute. They should have just said fine and given a 0. The teacher could have then come back and said why'd you get a 0 and your daughter could have explained, things would have been solved. Instead the substitute created a problem